Okay, welcome to the Burning Podcast in the episode of Driving Humanity Forward and the Green Paradox. This podcast is actually a spin-off that last time we had a conversation with Pak Kostup in the 15.3 TTT, Transdisciplinary Tea Talk in August. And today podcast will be a spin-off and a conversation between Pak Kostup and Maseko. That is a reaction from that presentation by Mr. Kostup. So we hope the information that was presented in the TTT, which is a lot, can be digested more slowly and more clearly for all the viewers. And for this, I will ask Mas Eko to start directly with your presentation. Please, Mas Eko.
Okay, Paika, thank you very much for the invitation. And Pak Kostup, nice to meet you. Finally, I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, Paiko.
Right.
Pleasure to meet you as well. And
Good. Okay, so today we would like to discuss a follow-up of what Pak Kostup has presented before. So mainly about EVs and why EV and why not. And this is just to follow up again. We would like to see actually, as for the understanding the the concept of sustainability. Globally, there are a lot of topics, at least 17 are identified. And among these topics, um, the area where sustainability related to EV is mostly on the global greenhouse gas emission, which is to tackle the climate changes. Yeah. So this is the area actually whereby the global gas emission mainly caused by the energy development that also including the transportation itself. That's why the EV is calculated. So we see zoom in again on the greenhouse gas emission itself by sectors. We see this energy area. There are this transportation, and among the transportation areas, they are about 11% of this total road transport. This is whereby uh, discussion about EVs and all other solution on road transport came in. Yeah. So we have one area whereby Pak Kostup last time brought up about the comparison of the weight, and we have also an emission by a fuel power source, and then comparison of CO itself depending on the car types, as well as how it makes during the lifetimes, and um, the costs of operating itself. Yeah. So if we zoom in further onto this matrix, we can see, let's see. So energy ratio with Pak Kostup, we go back to what Pak Kostup mentioned, that actually EV will weight more. Yeah, the battery itself is comparing to the gasoline that cars will carries. This will approximately around 61 times of what the gasoline car will carry petrol. So that will have a huge impact if it is applied to big vehicle like lorries or trucks. Yeah. And then from this chart where the emission by a fuel power source, if it is by gasoline, this is the emission numbers that generated by the cars, whereby EVs generated about even less than half of what the normal gasoline engine cars. if it is charged to the normal or the what we have now on the grid. Yeah, and it will get better if the grid itself are sourced from the renewable source. Then we can see again another comparison here, which is very interesting, whereby comparing EV car here. It's not very clear, but it's an EV, a Tesla Model S, the flagship model, and comparing to a gasoline engine car, which is also a flagship model, similar level, then compares to a small car, a gasoline engine cars, but it's a small engine capacity. So in looking at that, actually the production of the emission that produced by the car itself um, during the production. Yeah, so the EV still emit slightly higher compared to the normal gasoline engine during production. And then lifetime, it emits about half of the normal gasoline engine, about the same size. But comparing to a smaller gasoline car, the small gasoline car still emits lesser COs. Yeah. That's so on. Then in comparable, actually, if it is a big EV that we have now and comparable to a small engine car, actually small engine car also does not emit as much. So with this kind of metrics finding data, there are comparison that we can see. There are pros and cons of the EV itself. The EV is heavier, but it's still giving a lot of advantage to us, which is the CO emission itself is very low, and with the same power or comparable power, it is still considered cleaner than the gasoline engine car. On the other hand, we also need to see or to discuss further, does EV really solve the climate issues or not? So with that, actually, I have three topics to discuss with Pak Kaustup today. Will be first one. We know from the first chart that we see climate control is one aspect of the global sustainability. Then EV is one of the solutions that offered to help this reducing climate impact itself. And the next one, probably we can discuss about EV itself has an impact on environment, as what we discussed just now. What is the pros and cons? Then probably we can summarize some of the topic that we can discuss further after this meeting. Yeah. Okay, Pak Eka, Pak Kaustup, that's what I have present today. Probably we can start the discussion. Yeah.
Sure. Paiko, firstly, thank you for bringing out the variety of informations and detailing it out, how the overall sectors are contributing to the overall CO emissions and where we need to focus on. As you rightly pointed on the EV side, that it is not limited to weight, but also the other aspects in the fuel ratio and the CO ratios as well in the matrix which you explained or elaborated. And also when you detailed about the comparison between a Tesla and a small car and how does it compare at the overall CO ratio. That makes sense. So what we at we would like to propose is, or the way forward could be, we need to see which applications should go in the EV side and which should continue to remain, say, on the IC side, because there are various perspectives and equilibrium which we will need to maintain, considering the overall cost and also the benefit in terms of the CO emissions and reduction in CO emissions. If I correct myself, your thoughts, Paiko, on this? Because as you rightly said, as we have seen that the weight starts increasing when we have to, go on a larger distance. So if we have to replicate the same model for, say, commercial vehicles, would it be really of help when they are traveling between two cities or intra-cities? And what exactly would be the advantage in terms of reduction of the CO emission? That is something we will need to assess and take it as a, as an action item.
Correct, Kaustubh. Yeah, thanks for your view. Um, I agree with you that to certain extent, actually, it depends on the usage or the application of the EV itself. If my own perspective, if it is targeting the personal cars or passengers cars that mostly for personal use, that might help to reduce the climate problems. There are some studies in US whereby they say if the whole state, one whole state change 100% of the ICE to EVs, that will reduce around 46% of the greenhouse gas emission. But that is considering a 100% change. So means everyone convert to it. Well, we know EV is not something new. EV has been in this discussion for quite some times, and the growth of it is just recently picking up.
Right.
There are a few ideas that is actually very good, whereby focusing on mass transport, for example, um, not really a mass transport, is either buses or even going for taxis. So I think these two ideas of some governments are really good, that they are focusing on more on public transport rather than personal cars. What do you think, Bakotso?
I completely agree because automotive is something like an aspiration one would have, and that is something which drives more and more products on this side. So it's basically a status symbol at some point in time, like what car you own, which model you own, and what is the CC and all. So that's a different human psyche, if I have to say, from auto side, right? But when we
Yes.
come to the environment side, we really don't assess what is the impact it is creating on the environment at large. So if you really see, uh, the best way or the optimum way would be we have the mass transports, say the buses or say metros or say monorails, which are able to carry a large amount of people and help them facilitate commute at cheaper cost, and that the impact on the environment is also far lesser as compared to what an automotive or a vehicle would do. So, as you rightly said, the shared transportation or the mass transportation, if those starts getting developed and people have options, then automatically the dependence on individual, uh, say, an automotive would start decreasing. But that's something which, as an industry, if we see, was not beneficial because the contribution of the sector to the GDP So, in a way, let's say like we have transportation systems or mass transit systems on the rise, but the job creation potential starts going down because they employ a lot many people in all facets, right from the unskilled to the skilled. So again, we need to strike a balance between how this would be achieved, right? So as you rightly pointed out, on the humanity side and the environment side, these are the facets which also need to be seen. If you come back to your previous slide, Paiko, where you had the pie chart about the various segments which are contributing to the energy sector, right? So right now we are only talking of
This one?
say,
Yeah.
yeah, we are talking only about 11% of the segment, which
All
is
right. Yes.
right. So still
Exactly,
89%,
Pa.
89% of the overall pie is untouched,
True. True.
right?
Yeah. It's
So
true, Pa. Yeah. So
when we mean an equilibrium, we have to see if some reskilling could be done and supported. in other areas where we could, say the skills which are predominantly used in automotive could be leveraged in other industries, and that could also be helped. That could be a possible action or a way forward in using the resources which are trained, skilled, and available in these segments as well. So there's a knowledge share, and what is the best could be evolved. Your thoughts, Pike, on this?
Yes, but so I agree with you. So we are touching now on this 12% of the pie chart, and
Yeah.
the remaining there are still a lot of it. But I still think that solving this 12% is really also meaningful to the humanity. Yeah.
Yes.
And as you mentioned just now, there's also already a hint of what we can discuss further,
Yeah.
which uh, the creation of its EV itself, will that impact on the manpower, for example, the jobs creation, the environment impact of producing the battery and so on. That could be our next topics to discuss, Pak Kotso.
Right. True, Pa. True, Pa.
Mm,
I would just like to rephrase one part which I touched upon in my webinar in the August, that when we are creating an EV, we should ensure that we are not creating a new plastic. Uh, if you see, plastic was conceived to, you know, help a humanity and solve many problems and reduce the dependence on, say, metals and earth minerals. But going forward, we have seen it has created more nuisance. Uh, though it is helping to a large extent, but it has created a lot much of nuisance, which is right now unmanageable and difficult to handle. Right. So we need to be
true, Pak.
cautious of the fact
Mm.
that we're not creating a new plastic by a means of EV. Right. So that's the underlying thing, and we can always take this discussion forward on the various things which we are discussing today.
Yeah. So I think for today's discussion, I can see that we have a similar understanding that yes, EV will solve partial of the problem that we have now, but in the process of adapting this EV technology itself, or converting from ICE to EV, we should not create another problem.
Right.
Be it a problem to the community, the workforce, or even to the environment. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Very good view, Pak Kosop.
Right. Thank you, Pa.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I
one more
think
before we just, yeah.
what about yourself?
Paika, your thoughts?
Yeah, very interesting conversation. But let me elaborate. Echo, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, okay. This slide, left top corner, energy to weight ratio. I think this is a trigger when both of you discuss about the possibility of or the constraint. EV with this point, energy to weight ratio, EV will be effective maybe in a small car, but maybe not effective in a other bigger vehicle because of its weight and because of the power it needs to move the vehicle.
Mm,
Yeah. So the point is that with this current technology, there is possibility even if we are going to EV with a bigger vehicle, means there is a possibility to have a non-desirable effect to the environment. I think that
mhm.
that is the trigger of both of your conversation. So
Correct.
that's why it becomes discussing about Pak Kostup say, yeah, maybe in some area we go to the EV, some area we still go to the fossil fuel or gasoline or ice. Yeah?
True.
So
True.
this is a basic thinking process. I hope the viewer can understand by my
Yes.
elaboration. And again, both of your conversation, both of you start a conversation of the impact of to the social and to the environment, humanity to the worker. If let's say if we concentrate to the bigger vehicle, then there is a potential loss of job, and then also the a potential effect to the environment. And again, both of you came back to the 11% or 12% issue. So by this explanation by Pak Kostup and Mas Eko, I think the viewer should have a more clear picture that EV is only a part of solution because of 12%. And
Right.
even in this 12%, there are a lot of things that must be thought out
True.
first.
True.
Social impact, environment impact before we proceed cautiously. So that is why I said that your conversation is very interesting.
True.
And hopefully you can go to the second topic, more interesting. Please proceed.
Okay, Pak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So uh, we have some discussion already, very interesting. The second one is we have touched on that. So
Yeah.
the pros and cons of EV itself, like what Pak Kosto mentioned, that the production of EV itself might have a bigger impact on environment as well as a big impact on socio-economic, whereby we can. I have an idea that maybe we can deep dive further on the uh,
Yeah.
production of EV itself, because EV and ICE, if we see the engine itself, how complex, how different of the complexity and so on, maybe we can have another
True.
time to arrange for this discussion, Pak Eka. And what next topic that we would like to discuss here, right? The next topic of our discussion, those are one of it. So I would
Yeah.
propose to discuss on the complexity of EVs and in relation with the environment, in relation with socio-economic, and of course we need to discuss as well the affordability, Pak Kosto.
True. I completely
Yeah,
I'm on that
yeah,
part, on the affordability part. Uh,
yeah,
just to bring in the part on the say pros and cons and what Paika was also dwelling. Uh, the 11% we are attacking or we are targeting the 11% which is say EV on the transportation side.
mm,
But if you see in the chart pie chart, right, there is around 3 or 4% which is for the waste management, which is also contributing to the uh, right. 3.2% is the waste, right, which is also
yes,
contributing to the CO part, CO emission.
correct. Mm,
So we need to see when we are talking about EVs, the life of vehicles, say the battery would be say 3 years or 4 years, and
exactly.
eventually we need to replace it at that period. Whereas ICEs are defined for say 10 to 15 years, right? So when we do that and replacing almost 80 or 90% of the cost of the vehicle, which is battery, right? What is the waste and how it is impacting the overall CO, that also needs to be taken into consideration, which is why I say we should not be creating a new plastic and unmanageable or a further more challenging problem to solve than what we have today.
True, Pak. So exactly, yeah, but so we are solving trying to solve this 12% of a problem with a solution. One of the solution is EV, but
Right.
on the other hand, the creation of this part, which is 3%, will be more,
Yeah.
and probably as well with the mining and so on, then the deforestation or what else can be affected as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So that's a larger fabric part. So we definitely need to be a part of solution than the problem itself. But on the
Yes.
solution side, we also need to assess the cause and effect of the various actions what we take
Mm.
at large.
Obi Kaustubh, I would like to stress on one point here that we discuss about we only offering solution for this
True,
12%. I
true,
mean, we means the EV itself, yeah. But to me, solving this 12% is also good to do.
true.
Yeah,
I completely
something
agree.
that we have to do. Yeah, we are something that we have to do. It's not that hey, we only solve this 12%, then we should do something else. Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
still something that we need to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still very important to do. Uh,
Uh, See, Paiko, I completely on that with you that we need to address this 12%. What I'm further
mhm.
proposing is that we need to have the collaborations across industry as a whole,
True. Mm.
because one industry may have some working or a way of working or method of working, which if can be deployed to another industry can be an innovation
Mhm.
and could have that kind of a movement being done. So it would be a collective effort to not limiting our focus to the 12%, but the overall 100% of the pie. And these exercises, if done at a collaboration level and coordinated efforts, would definitely help the humanity and society at large in this challenge of the climate change, which we need to restrict the temperature of 1.5 degrees by the defined time, right? Else, we have
Mm.
seen the after effects. We are facing those after effects. We have seen the torrential rains, or we have seen the forest fires, and the recent floods in US and Germany and in the Europe. So we are all party to that. So again, bringing to this uh, same reference that this is a collective problem. We need to see it from our perspectives, but we also need to have a larger perspectives at place, and how those structures would evolve is something CTSS could help us, having the speakers as well as the industry experts from the variety of domains and have their insights as well, which could fast track the efforts of climate change.
Yeah, exactly. So, Paika,
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Kostup, for your very encouraging comment, and also Maseko. But this is a very big responsibility. CTSS alone cannot do it. That's
yeah,
why we have you, Maseko, and Pak Kostup, and maybe you can ask your network also to join our
hmm,
conversation. It will
True.
be very, very interesting
yes.
to solve this problem together.
Mm.
So,
Right.
We
yeah,
all in this together, pa.
We are all
yeah,
in this together, right?
yeah. But sometimes people forget.
So that's the drive power. That's the movement we need to lead and ensure that we are all in together and all in this
Yeah,
same storm, but in
Mm.
different boats at
yeah,
varied points.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why we are making this video podcast. But one of the
True,
purpose, yeah.
true.
Hopefully, people will get interested and join the conversation. So
True.
I think this is a wrap up for today's presentation, and the key takeaway is that uh, from this presentation and conversation, yeah, we can know that actually in at least in the transportation, going green or EV is actually uh, not as easy or as simple as we thought. Actually, we are moving from one ecosystem, the ICE ecosystem, to the EV ecosystem.
Hmm.
And this is a huge transformation that cannot be done alone. That this is also why the keyword of collaboration is required, because actually we are not moving only from ICE to EV, but we are moving from ICE ecosystem to EV ecosystem.
True.
I think that is the point. Okay. So anyway, thank you for Maseko and Pak Kostup for today's presentation and conversation. Very interesting. So, Pak Eko, can you close your sharing? Yeah. So this is only the start. Yeah. We will still have
Yes.
other conversation like Pak Eko mentioned. The next will be the complexity or the simplicity in engine wise of EV and ICE. So what will come out from that simple fact we will discuss in our next podcast. So
Mhm.
hope to see all of you viewers, and stay tuned. And Maseko and Pakostup, we will really looking forward for your interesting presentation and conversation. Okay, thank you very much.
Bapak Eka.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pak Eka. Thank you, Pak
Great
Kosto.
conversation. Pak Eko.